Please welcome Joe Hart. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is one of the highlights of my job, is getting out and talking baseball. I know, looking around the room, there were some of you I saw at the ball game yesterday, so thank you for coming out. Also wanted to say thank you for you guys allowing us to host your organization for a night at the ballpark. It's always a joy to get people to come out to the ballpark. Everybody always asks, hey, you obviously are a diehard baseball guy. You must love when you guys win games. And yes, I do, like anybody else. But really for me, what it is providing the experience that you deserve when you come out to Four Winds Field. And that's to make sure that your night is a wow and a thrilling factor. You know, if we win, great. But if we don't, as long as you had a good time, you leave the game, don't know if we won or lost, and we've done our job, or we've served you too many drinks at the Tiki Hut. So for us, that's really what it's all about. We're a community organization that just happens to play baseball. And I'm lucky enough to have Andrew here today, because I'm going to just say some things about the organization, kind of our philosophies and what we do. And then I'm going to turn it over to him, because obviously without Andrew purchasing the ball club back in 2011, I wouldn't be here, and we would not have the facility and the venue that we have today. But probably the thing I'm the most proud about the South Bend Cubs and what we've been able to do with Four Winds Field is it truly is a regional attraction now. When I got here, quite honestly, the team was only drawing about 111,000 people a year. A couple of years ago, we set an all-time franchise record by drawing 354,000 people. So we are, thank you. We are consistently drawing from about a 65, 70-mile radius now of South Bend. It's not just the local community coming out anymore. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of the improvements that we've made at Four Winds Field to make it family friendly. I know when I first met Andrew and moved here, you know, 2 of my kids were under the age of 5. Andrew had some young kids. So one of the first things we talked about is, how do we want to reinvent, at that time, Coveleski Stadium, to make it family friendly? Because, you know, we were living examples that our wives would hate to come to Four Winds Field with 2 young kids, because kids don't sit in their seat for 3 straight hours anymore. So we hatched the idea of the splash pad, probably the busiest area in the ballpark on a given day when it's nice and warm out. The Toyota Fun Zone. For those of you that are not parents yet, if you need any birth control, just hang out in the Fun Zone for about a half hour. You will not have kids, and then you will at least get you to come to the Tiki Hut and have a drink as well. But really, that's what it was about. It's about the fan experience. It's about you all. Because if we can make the investment, at the end of the day, you have to entrust us with what your experience is going to be like. And we took a lot of risks in the very beginning when we made renovations to the ballpark and when we first got here. And really that was the vision of Andrew. And through his help, we've been able to do that, not only through his vision, but also through his financial contributions. For those of you that don't know, Four Winds Field has probably seen an influx of close to $15 to $16 million since Andrew's bought the ball club. All in all, close to $35 million onto the entire ballpark property, the corner with the First Source Bank Performance Center, and then also the IVF Berlin Place that has 121 apartments that are 98% filled. So it just creates a lot of excitement on our part of town that, quite honestly, was lagging when we got here many years ago. So, for us and me, I grew up a Chicago Cubs fan while I am from North Central Pennsylvania. WGN, that was what hooked me in as a Cubs fan long term. So to be a Cubs affiliation, to be partners with Chicago Cubs is pretty amazing. And for those of you that are Cubs fans, the thing that was always elusive to us was that Chicago Cubs World Series. It was always wait till next year. Well, lucky enough to be the president and to be partners with Andrew, I'm lucky enough to be blessed with the Chicago Cubs World Series ring. So something that not many people have, and based on the way they're playing now, I'm not sure when we'll get another one. But it's a lot of fun because, obviously, we lost Baez, we lost Rizzo, we lost Bryant, but the Cubs are flush with a lot of talent. A lot of those guys are in South Bend with us right now, or started the year with us. When we started the season, 10 of the top 30 prospects were playing for the South Bend Cubs. A lot of those guys were the ones from the trades that we got. Pete Crow Armstrong from the Mets with the Chris Bryant trade, or with the Javier Baez, Alexander Canario with the Giants for Chris Bryant. So there's a ton of talent. So it is just a matter of time until you see the Chicago Cubs winning again. But in the meantime, while they are struggling a little bit, you're getting to see a lot of guys that came through South Bend that are playing now in the Chicago Cubs. They're roaming the friendly confines. Obviously, Chris Morrell was there, Nelson Velasquez, and PJ Higgins. You know, these are kids that came through South Bend. So finally, now that we've been a Cubs affiliate for about 7 years, you're starting to see the fruits of the labor, what happened in South Bend playing at Wrigley Field. And as Andrew and I like to say, the road to the World Series starts in South Bend. So we will get another one, I think. But we're going to at least do our part in doing it. The other exciting thing for us, and this doesn't happen without the support of our community. We were lucky enough to be announced as the single-A ballpark of the year, voted on by fans and, you know, executives that come to the ballpark. And I think that says a lot for any of you that have been to Four Winds Field. The stadium was built in 1987, so it's not like it's 2 or 3 years old. But when you come there, with all the renovations, it certainly feels that way. So I want to thank you all for those of you that have voted, any of you that have had any influence. It's a great honor to be bestowed on us, because before Andrew bought the ball club, the team was on the verge of bankruptcy and quite honestly was on the verge of leaving the community altogether, which would have left, you know, an empty stadium in downtown South Bend. So now when you come out on nights, it's thriving. We had close to 6,000 people at the game yesterday. Friday night, we had over 7,000 people there. So it has truly become that community gathering point again. And again, thanks to you all for supporting us. And with that, what I'd like to do is just quite honestly turn it over to Andrew, let him talk about kind of where the future is, kind of what his mindset was when he decided to purchase the ball club, because he tells a funny story about the first time he came to South Bend. And, you know, I'll let him share that. But then at the end, we'll leave it open to questions, what you want to know about, you know, our partnership with the Chicago Cubs, minor league baseball as a whole. Those of you that have been to a game this year may notice that probably the biggest change for us this year from a rule standpoint is we have the pitch clock. I can tell you, as somebody that's worked in baseball for 29 years, I absolutely love the pitch clock. For those of you that are big Major League Baseball fans, that pitch clock is supposedly coming to that level as well, and it changes the complete outcome of, or at least the fan experience. We used to have games that would take 3.5 hours. We're now averaging about 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes, which is a great time. It just kind of speeds up the game, a lot less downtime. And, you know, I know yesterday's game was about 2 hours and 20 minutes, so kind of right in our wheelhouse. So it helps us on fireworks nights. Our biggest challenge was we'd shoot fireworks off. You know, we'd go extra innings, or games would be 3.5 hours. We're now 11:45, and most of the young kids that were out there to see it weren't able to be there because it was past their bedtime. Our issue now is games are going so fast that on Friday nights we may have to delay a little bit till it gets dark enough to shoot fireworks. So, but with that, Andrew, please join me, and thank you for being here today. And again, thank you all for coming to Four Winds Field. If there's anything ever we can do to help you guys, let us know, because you're a part of our team and we want to be a part of your organization and community. Thank you.
Joe does all the work. That was terrific. I was pretty stimulated by that speech. But before I get started, Anthony, I put $20 in the basket just to get it over with. Okay. I don't know how it's going to come out or how it's going to go, but I'm sure I'm going to screw it up somehow, and I'm going to owe you money. So I put it in the basket. And for those of you that don't have any ones on you, I took care of you too. So thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here. And as I was listening to the opening remarks, first of all, it's such a delight to say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's been a long time since I've said it because I'm not in school anymore. I sing the national anthem along with whoever's singing it at Wrigley or at Four Winds Field, but I love the national anthem and I love the Pledge of Allegiance. But in addition to that, I was looking at the four-way test and about honesty. And there's a way in which we've always ran any of the businesses that I've participated in because sometimes doing the right thing or saying the right thing or being honest is hard. At times it's hard because it's easier to shade the truth. But we've always had a phrase in all of the businesses we talk about, and it's always doing as honor dictates. It's something I learned from a Navy SEAL. And I work in a company now, invested in a company now that is in the defense industry. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But when faced with a difficult, the two angels on the shoulder, was the devil on the shoulder and the angel on the shoulder. I forget what movie that was parodied, but you just have to just take a breath and do as honor dictates, because it's always better to lead your life that way. And to Fran, I noticed that you mentioned Zephyr Hills, but you didn't mention the street address that we could come all visit there. So hopefully you can announce that later, but congratulations to you, 38 years. That's fantastic. My wife and I actually have a little thing that we have that keeps the marriage going and keeps, it's like a code. I'll share that with you. But as far as the business goes, I mean, we're here to talk about baseball. I mean, I know people thought that was funny, but I mean, at the end of the day, do you want to be right or do you want to be married? Right? So I want to be married. So I'm going to talk about baseball. I'm going to talk a little bit about business and how we operate our businesses and philosophically our approach to commerce. My background is that went to Syracuse University undergrad, studied military history, got a master's at Boston College, came back for law school in Chicago at Loyola, practiced law for 23 months, didn't last very long. I found commerce to be more interesting. I grew up in a family where my father was in the steel business and worked for my dad from the age of 5 to 18 before I went off to college every summer. And even at the age of 5, you think you're working at a steel company, what can a 5-year-old learn? And what he used to do is he used to sit me in the corner of his office, and as long as I was quiet, I could stay in the room in any meeting that he had. But I'd be playing with a puzzle in the corner or some toys. But what I did learn along the way and didn't realize at the time is I learned about how he spoke to people, the integrity, the respect that he gave to every teammate, every employee. And again, as I got older, I started to learn about what the conversations were about. But even when he was asking someone to leave the company, he did it in the nicest way. But I learned a lot from my father about leadership, and doing as honor dictates is one of the most important principles of being a great leader. And as far as I was concerned, the practice of law, though great training, I was really built for commerce. So there was a troubled packaging company that was a client of the firm, Berlin Package. It was called Alco Packaging at the time. They made glass and plastic bottles and jars for cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, wine, beverage, and so forth. And over the years, over 32 years, we did build it into quite an enterprise. Some of the numbers that Tom had were some older numbers. I apologize for not sending a bio ahead of time. But today it's a $5 billion company with 36 factories around the world on 4 continents. And it was a little tiny company that was in Omaha, Nebraska at the time when we first got it 32 years ago. So it's built up over time, but you're not looking at the guy who built it. You're looking at the guy who did a lot of the recruiting, a lot of the training, and also ensured over time that we retained our most important assets, and those are our human assets. We focused a lot on recruiting people for traits rather than just skills. People who had integrity, imagination, creativity, delighted and derived joy from crushing competition. Those kinds of traits you can't teach. Those are the traits you can only recruit. From the ages of 4 years old to 9, 10 years old, the code is kind of set. And then, of course, based on life experiences, parents and so forth, those traits either get built and enhanced over time, or they're shaved down a little bit. But either way, we recruited mostly for traits, and of course, skill sets. We could always train those. And so we focused a lot on recruiting in that way. But we also spent and invested a tremendous amount of money in every single business I've ever had on skill development and training to enhance those traits, to teach the skills. And of course, we focused a lot on retention. And of course, one of our failures in retention was Seth New got away from us and went away to Frito-Lay in Dallas and is now back in the area. But we focused a lot on retention. Of course, the higher the retention rates in business, the greater loyalty effect you have in a business, the more you keep the intellectual assets like wisdom and experience in a company, And studies have shown, thousands of studies have shown that the higher retention rate in a business, the higher the increase in EBITDA or net earnings of a company over time. It just makes sense. And so there is that kind of that loyalty effect that a professor at Stanford, Jeffrey Pfeffer, has spoken about a great deal. At Berlin Packaging, we had about a 93% retention rate, which is almost unheard of, especially these days. I have not checked in with Berlin since I sold it in 2019 on the retention rate, but it's been a tough couple of years, as I think we all realize. So I'll speak a little bit about baseball, and we can talk about that. Actually, one more thing. After I left Berlin, I got active with the Navy at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and then also bought a company that is a defense contractor. We make drones, missiles, and different kinds of ordnance now, and we make the kinds of things that the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, and a lot of our allies are now using, and are now using actually in areas of conflict around the world. We headquartered in San Diego. Of course, the fleet is headquartered out there on the east and the west coast. We manufacture in Dallas, and we have business development offices in Washington. That actually is taking up a great deal of my time these days. The company's called Shield AI, or Shield Artificial Intelligence. We stack artificial intelligence now in fighter jets in an effort to help the lethargic human mind of a pilot. I say lethargic because you have, when missiles are shot at a fighter jet can fly at about Mach 5 times the speed of sound, but the missiles that are fired at them move at about 9 times Mach 9 the speed of sound. So a fighter jet pilot doesn't have very long to make decisions. Artificial intelligence, however, can make decisions 1 million times faster than the human mind. And so being the first country to employ artificial intelligence that is autonomous from the pilot means that our fighter jets live longer, we win more often, and we win battles more often. And so that's what we're setting out to do with this technology. I know it's a good mission. It's a good mission. But there's also a nice mission of bringing families together. And as Joe talked about, bringing families together, bringing friends together, date nights together to create memories at Four Winds Field, though it may not be the stuff of Top Gun 2 Maverick, but it can also be something that is an amazing mission, because what we did in South Bend was really not just about baseball. It was about making memories, certainly, and that's what brings people back. But what we were able to do in helping to stimulate development in a downtown South Bend that for many, many years had been really struggling since the loss of Studebaker. People talk about that all the time in South Bend. It's really like a bad relationship. You really have to just simply let go and stop talking about it, because that was decades ago. And it's time to start building again. And that's what we did in South Bend. We showed developers, we showed a lot of businesses in South Bend that you can actually invest in an area that has had troubles, has had difficulty, and actually make it look good. But it's not just spending the money. It's not just renovating the stadium. We put $9 million in the renovation of the stadium. It's a city-owned stadium. But it needed an owner who had the financial resources to not have to go to the city or the state and just simply spend the money themselves. And that's what I did. We built the first source financial, First Source Bank Performance Center. Thank you. It's a mouthful. But in order to bring the Cubs there to replace the Diamondbacks affiliate, which is the Silverhawks, we had to replace the artificial turf on the field. We had to be able to build a performance center for the training and skill development for the players. And in doing so, we attracted the Cubs. And once the Cubs joined, of course, sales did improve. Sales had improved even before then because the stadium was much cleaner, much better. The food was better. You may have heard our hot dog stories. Who hasn't heard our hot dog story? A lot, no? You know our hot dog story? Well, Baseball Writers of America are surveyed every year on which major league ballpark has the best hot dog. Okay, so there's 30 ballparks, and 2 years in a row, the Fenway Frank out of Boston is considered the best hot dog in all of baseball. So because every touch point, every little detail in our ballpark doesn't escape our attention, Joe decided to import our hot dogs from Massachusetts. So you get the Fenway Frank at Four Winds Field, the best hot dog in baseball. But it didn't just stop there. We produced a 3-minute video on how to clean toilets. and bathrooms, because we wanted to have the cleanest bathrooms in baseball. Because focus groups show that moms make the decision to come to our ballpark far often than fathers. And when moms come to the ballpark, what are they most concerned with? Cleanliness, comfort and security, and good food, in that order. So cleanliness was essential. Before we bought the ballpark, the former owners used to clean the stadium once a week. We cleaned it after every ball game. I cannot imagine what that ballpark was like after 4 or 5 games, how sticky it was and how horrible it was. We power washed the whole ballpark after every single game. The point is that we made investments all around that ballpark, not just in our ballpark, all around our ballpark, and wanted to be a good community partner. An economic study was recently done that we returned on an annual basis. The South Bend Cubs bring back to South Bend in that particular region about $26 million of investment every single year by outside sources, by people who visit because of the South Bend Cubs. We've invested tens of millions of our own money in the area in developing apartment buildings and other things around the ballpark. The point of the matter is it's become a great investment. And we don't even think about Studebaker, even though the Silverhawk was actually one of the models that the Studebaker used to manufacture. That's how it got its name. And being a Diamondbacks affiliate was unfortunate for South Bend because, well, how many Diamondback fans are in this room?
Woo! Arizona in the house.
One. Right on. You were the first person to ever raise their hand. Now, there's a proud Diamondbacks fan there, and you don't come to Fort Wayne Field enough. So, Julie, come on out. We got a chair for you, all for you. So, in any event, there's where the investment was. But at the end of the day, retention of human assets, people. Joe has done a phenomenal job, and in the baseball business, it's a tough job because there is a lot of turnover. He's done a fantastic job in execution, his ideas that he brings to the ballpark. This year we did win best ballpark in the single A throughout the entire nation, but there are 120 baseball teams, used to be 160 minor league teams in the United States. But in 2015, we were voted the best minor league ballpark in all of the United States, in all the levels. And this is because of the work that Joe and his team have been doing. So hats off to Joe R. He is an asset. And of course, if he does decide to leave, we'll use one of those drones to track him down. We'll bring him right back where he belongs. So I'll end there, but there's so much more to say, but I know we've been in the microphone for a while, and I don't know how many dollars we're racking up with Anthony right now. So why don't we open up to Q&A? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to say that I was at the game Thursday night with that
Yeoman.
home run on the bottom of the 10th.
Yes, sir.
I also want to thank you for building high quality apartments.
No, I do not. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. You too. Bye-bye. Thanks.
I want to caution Joe. You said it's only a matter of time. I want to tell you that they probably said it in Chicago in 1909. They only waited 107 years to win the World Series after that.
108, but who's counting?
Be careful how you try this.
That's true. Yeah, at least we all got to see it. At least we all got to see it.
Wonderful thing. Thank you.
Yeah, it was all us. Actually, one of my favorite stories from the night we won the World Series. I don't know if you saw this in the newspapers, but you're right. Generations upon generations upon generations of families had never seen the Cubs win the World Series until that fateful night of Game 7 that went 10 innings. It was an extraordinary. I was in Cleveland, and it was amazing. But what was happening back in Chicago is in cemeteries all around Chicago, there were people sitting in lawn chairs streaming Game 7 on their laptops sitting by their deceased family members so they could be with their family that had passed away, had never seen it before. And there were pictures of, sons with fathers, daughters with mothers, watching the game right next to that headstone. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And if you think about it, it's just about baseball, you're wrong. It is really about the family. Yes.
You talk about retention. How much is retention a one-on-one effort versus a group effort?
It's very much one-on-one. I mean, the one thing that I know from my standpoint is, and you guys all know, every individual is different. What may motivate you may not motivate your brother. And for us, you got to give that one-on-one attention. Obviously, we do a lot where the entire group is included in everything. It's not just myself or Andrew making the decision. We want anybody on our staff, whether it's an entry-level person, whenever it's our seasonal ushers or staff members, we want the input of everybody. So it's a group effort when it comes to, coming up with new ideas and everything like that. But when it really comes to retention, it's one-on-one. It has to be about having that relationship with folks. And I think we've done a great job of that. And I think that's why, most of our management team has been here since day one when I got here. Any of you know that run a business, there's a lot of knowledge and experience in those individuals. And when they leave, it's a lot harder to replace, and you're losing that knowledge. So for us, it is very much one-on-one, but we absolutely incorporate the ideas and thoughts from the entire staff, no matter, status. Anthony.
It is always a race, and congratulations on getting first place. So now what is your intention here in South Bend to try to keep the numbers going for you?
Yeah, we'll redefine first place. So we may be in first place now, and maybe you'll feel good right now, but we're only about halfway up that mountain. I mean, we turn around every so often and see how far we've come, but we're nowhere near the pinnacle. So one of the things that we're working on right now is with the state of Indiana. There is a professional sports development fund in South Bend that allows income taxes and sales taxes that are paid for services or what have you in South Bend. Rather than that money going down to an Indianapolis, we can keep that money actually in South Bend to be used for the renovation of a professional sports facility, which Fort Winsfield is. And so we just got some legislation. I spent a lot of time in Indianapolis last year and the year before, testifying in front of the Senate and the House there, working with the governor. We were able to get $40 million to stay in South Bend so we could work on the stadium and work in other areas in South Bend. So we're going to have that money available to us, and we're hoping to begin some really great renovations on the ballpark and increase the size of the ballpark and its occupancy, probably ending the year after the 2023 season. So we're going to be working on that. And of course, we take our job very seriously about skill development. I mean, I don't know if the World Series does start in South Bend, but at least we say so. So for the moment, we're going to try real hard, but we do have some really amazing talent there now. So again, it's redefining where you are, because we can do better on almost every function of what we do in the ballpark. I mean, the food can always be better. The service can be better. I mean, even though we pay attention to clean toilets and clean sinks and clean bathrooms and how safe it is, we can always do it better. So often pleased, but never satisfied.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.